Good evening, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Spurs fans around the world, and welcome to Grumpy Old Spurs, the Monday night show. And I hope everybody is having a good week so far. You haven't been threatened at gunpoint by your agent on the street, nor have discovered that someone's nicked 800 grand from your bank account. So tonight, I am delighted to be joined by a special guest. It is Iain from the Poddenham Podspur podcast. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Good evening, Iain. How are you?
I'm all right. A little bit pissed off that I had $799,000 taken out of my bank account.
So you've got the same person as Eve Basuma looking at after your bank account. That's a bit silly, isn't it now?
As well as my hamstrings, yeah.
Oh dear, that's no good at all. And where in the world can we find you, Iain?
You can find me on Blue Sky at ian.coys.social for my personal account, at Poddenham Podspur.bsky.social for the podcast, and wherever you get your pods, you can find the show, which is a
And
Spurs podcast.
my apologies. Bad
Ah.
host. Geographically, where can we find you, Iain?
I spend more of my time on Blue Sky than I do in the real world anyway, so I think that was a perfectly cromulent response. I live just outside of Washington, D.C. here in the U.S. in a city called Rockville in Maryland.
And that's a mighty fine cockerel you've got in the background there.
Thank you. We talked about not making a carry-on joke, so I'll
Yes.
just point out that it's usually my wife's.
Sorry, I know I shouldn't go down this road, but fuck it, I will, and I shouldn't swear either. But I swear that I heard on the commentary during the game, was it the United game or the Copenhagen game? One of the commentators did talk about the fact that there was a hard cock at the top of the Tottenham Stadium. Was it my imagination?
Maybe, but I definitely heard it too. So maybe we had some kind of fever dream together. You could touch the big golden cock, I think was the
That was it.
exact
Yes.
language. This one isn't gold.
Okay, well there we go. I'm glad.
This is for the common man.
Let's move on. Thank you, Cads, for promising to tune in. Thanks to Ian's prompting.
Thanks,
and it's not. I just want to say it's a warm welcome back to King Hoddle, who has been playing around. I've seen him in all the big boy YouTube groups and chats and shows. It's lovely to see you, King Hoddle, and in time on the tradition. So negative, King Hoddle, you really are. Okay, tonight, what we're going to be doing is that we will be talking about the United game. I know that a lot of people talked about it already, so we'll just stick to the highlights of the whole thing. Then we are going to get our medical certificates out and talk about our injury crisis, have a look at the league table, and then, as always, we'll finish off with reasons to be cheerful, which after the Chelsea game last week was more like reasons to be fearful. So let's turn our minds to the United game. And in time on a tradition, let's have a look at the team that was selected. Iain, what were your thoughts?
It was okay, I guess. It was what we had to do. I was hoping to see Udogie, but with Spence missing out midweek, kind of made sense that he had to roll Spence at left back now to protect Udogie's fitness. Wasn't super happy about seeing Richarlison on the left, but I mean, maybe the same thing could be said about Odegaard. We're just protecting him, but we'll get on to performances. But you can see why maybe that wasn't the best choice to go for Richarlison over.
So, although we're not going to get into the engine straight away, but it is a leading question: Spence and Richarlison on the left versus Udogie and Odegaard on the left. What's your preference?
Definitely Udogie. I would still like to see an upgrade on Odegaard at some point, but with what we currently have, I can see the point of getting Richarlison in. Like, if you look back at the Europa League final, his his running, his physical presence was a match winner in many ways. Yeah, I know we had Mickey clearance off the line, we had a goal, but Richie put in a real shift. Like he ran himself into the ground literally in that final for us. Whether we want to roll that out again in league play when we're kind of crying out for some kind of possession through the middle and hold up play, I don't really think that's his strong suit. So With what we'd have, I think you could say Odebear and Udogie is probably our best choice, but
So do you think the Spence Richarlison's selection was more about negating the attacking threat from United's right-hand side?
I've heard that from other more, intelligent podcasts than me, including yourself in your leading question. So
Right.
I'll
I'm
go
trying to
along with
work
yes.
out if you're insulting my intelligence or not. It's too early in the morning for
It's
me
more
to
than
work it
mine.
out.
That's the compliment.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, look, in time-honored tradition, in the last 5 weeks of this show, the catchphrase has been, I never want to see Paulinho and Bentancur as a double pivot at home. And I've even taken to using my massive PowerPoint skills to square off this area. And as you can see here, we had Sarr and Paulinho. So I was happy with that in the context that Bergvall is out due to the concussion protocol and that Bentancur played during the week against Copenhagen. And so I was pleased with that. And just a warm good evening to Vim. Hope you are well. So, in terms of I agree with you. I would have, Richarlison on the left. He may have done a load of donkey work on the left-hand side in the Europa Cup final, but that's not really his main role in the team. And it was more, I think he helped protect Destiny that night anyway. However, let's move on to the game in itself. Now, it would be fair to say that the first half really was pretty uninspiring fare from us, and United having the better of the play at a high level. Why do you think that was, Ian?
I think that Frank got maybe a little bit caught flat-footed by where Mbeumo started. I think he was expecting him to be on the other flank, but he came up against Porro and had a lot more time there, a lot more space than we would have liked. They got him behind us a few times. And just same old issues where the ball goes up top and maybe comes back on us, stuff like that. I thought Johnson played okay. I think he put in a good pass that was basically onto Richarlison's head at one point. I think that was the first half, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
A glancing header, we could have been either level or, 1-0 up, depending on what the game state was at the time. But it's just kind of how the Premier League is at the moment. It's kind of boring, attritional rubbish football at times, and I feel like that was kind of what it was more than anything else. United created a little bit, but nothing to pull up trees or get too excited over if you were a United fan.
Right. Okay. And then if we you've got, in terms of the first half, you've got, like as you said, there's a Johnson. He did this thing called a cross that was accurately went into I mean, I don't know if I've seen one of them before from Brennan. I mean, I thought if we're taking Brennan's performance, I thought he was more aggressive in his play, and he did get some crosses in, and he did a great tackle after Spence screwed up, right? So I've got to give him some props. There are people who are on this show, Gibbo, HG, who have always hated Brennan, and I'm kind of over Brennan. Hang on a minute. Speaking of HG, there he is. Good evening, HG. Hope you're well. Even with 8-10 out, round peg and round holes, we could still look decent. I think HG was happy. So I think with Van der Ven did a great tackle, Cunha, after Romero did one. I thought Romero had one of his pre-international break performances. What did you think?
I did love it when he did that pretty aggressive slide tackle where he seemed to be sliding for about 20 yards before he hit the man. When United were on the break, I enjoyed that. Yeah, he wasn't spectacular, but again, apart from Van der Ven, was anybody in that back line? Spence looked a little leggy, didn't quite look his normal self. Udogie, when he came on, went forward well. Porro again looks a little out of sorts. So, and he didn't get as much protection in front of him as he's used to. He had Paulinho and Sarr rather than Paulinho and Bentancur. So maybe we're seeing what Frank sees at times with that double pivot that you hate so much.
So it can't have a double pivot. It cannot have a double pivot at home. It's just not us. We can't do it. We shouldn't do it, and we won't do it if I had my way. Anyway, let's talk about the United goal. my thoughts on it is that we didn't do enough to get the ball out of the danger zone. We faffed around there, which I believe is a technical expression. And then obviously the cross comes in, and then Buemo gets between, and as you can see, that beautiful illustration here gets between Porro and Johnson, and a pretty soft goal to give away. What do you think?
If you look at the earliest phase of that attack for United, Van de Ven almost cleared the ball. It bounced off somebody's face, and then we just didn't seem to know what to do once the ball landed, bounced around a little bit. We couldn't get it out. Then it was underneath, underneath our feet a little bit, getting it, it just was moving 10 yards. It was bouncing around. It was just a really sloppy goal. And to see a player of his quality free in the box to be able to plant his feet and just direct a header past Vicario is disappointing.
I agree. I just thought it was just sloppy defending, and we'll get on to their equalizer obviously in a little bit. But then half-time whistle goes, the boos ring out, and this is the irony section of the show, ladies and gentlemen. So one person who sits in the United States and one person who sits in Sydney. What do you think about this phenomena of fans or sections of the fans booing at half-time?
Bunch of plastics. I don't know. It's tough because if I were there, I don't think I'd boo. I've been there for the few games that I've actually been able to go to. I was there for the Newcastle Tim Krul experience when he seemed to grow 2 feet and his hands also grew 2 feet in size and nothing could get past him. We were at home, we lost 1-0. Heard booing then, but it wasn't in me to boo that performance. But I'm not there every week. I'm not traveling every week. I'm not doing that. I'm not part of that experience. I'm not feeding off of the vibes in the stadium to make a decision as to whether I boo or not. So do I like it? At halftime, I think it's a little dodgy because you still got 45 minutes to play. If you're gonna boo, I think at 90 minutes, maybe. But the people who go to the stadium have a much better kind of understanding of how performance is and how they should vent their frustrations than I do. So
I mean, Phil makes a very good point here. He's not a fan of booing, although he could boo us if he wanted to in the comment section. But we've seen 3 wins in 21 league home games.
Yeah,
that's true. But I've heard booing in that stadium at other points of our journey. Hate to use that word, where we haven't had 3 wins in 21 games. I mean, I do remember a couple of years ago, I think when Conte was the manager, that we were playing Leicester at home, and it was pretty much of a bit of as they say, a bit of a ding-dong game. And I think we'd missed a penalty, but we were down by a goal or something at half-time. It was quite an exciting game. And there was some booing then, and I thought, that's just ridiculous. We're actually watching quite an entertaining game here. So the question, Iain, is as a fan base, do you think we're entitled?
Well, I'm just going to make a minor comment. I just want to say that from a pragmatic point of view, booing works because we scored 2 goals after we booed. So maybe we need to boo before the kickoff whistle. But
I'm sure there's someone out there in Spurs YouTube podcast land who might be able to do a thing where there's been booing at half time. What was the result in the second half? I still think that you probably won't get the results to back up your argument. And a good comment here from HG. No Spurs fan expects champagne football week in, week out. But we all know that even with so many injuries, we can be better than we were first half. Which then, hang on, we get into the last 30 minutes in a second. But Vim says booing is for pantomimes. Behind you, Vim. And there you go. I think, and John, 0 shots on target in the first half. Maybe a boo was warranted. There you go. So that was the booing. So second half, half-time change. Moani is off. Odegaard is on. Spurs X goes into meltdown.
Well, as we've seen, he seems to be made of biscuits, or Kolo Muani, right? He's is his last name Kolo Muani, or was he like Randall Kolo is like a middle name? Anyway, I'll call him Muani.
Yeah.
He had that contact injury, dead leg from Sa, so there's a physicality element there. Now he's had his jaw broken by Harry Maguire. He's either not tough enough or very unlucky. I think it's
Well,
probably the latter.
I mean, I don't wish to spread any slander or libel that this dead leg that seemed to go on for weeks may have something to do with the fact that he turned up possibly not in the best condition to play association football for us. Just allegedly.
You think that leg was covering up for some fitness issues? Okay.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So and Phil, I believe, he's lost one game ever through injury before he joined us. Don't you worry, Phil. We will get onto the medical aspect of the show in a little bit time. So off he went. Odegaard came on. I thought Odegaard.
It's a shame. Sorry, because Kolo Muani has been playing. He seems to have been getting into his form. You know, he looked good against Copenhagen. It's a real shame that we're going to miss out on him. Sorry to cut you off, David, but just to focus on his abilities rather than his physicality.
I agree, because it was that strange thing that when he came on, who were we up against? Monaco, and you could see someone who held the ball up and showed some strength and could lay it off and things like that. Something that we don't get from our Brazilian number 9 ever. And I do think he looks a player. I just hope that this loan spell doesn't turn into a Stefan Dalmat, Paul Konchesky loan spells, and the Portents aren't that good so far. So hopefully he can, maybe with this jaw injury, that he will get the Harry Kane-like mask, and he can be back before we know it. But let's just move on to the second half. So Odegaard, I thought he had a great second half.
Talk about people growing into it. He's really stepped up this year. He showed flashes last year, like those 2 goals against Alkmaar, kind of rescued us in the Europa League. And, you know, he put in a wonderful cross for Tell's goal, I think. Yeah, that's right. And his shot was amazing. You know, when you think about it, for a young man who hasn't shown a tremendous amount of confidence in shooting on sight, especially to take something from outside the box against Manchester United, when we're, you know, chasing another goal to try to win the match at home, which hasn't been the best experience. Good for him for putting his foot through it, showing some real technique, and then he had the goal stolen by him by Richarlison. So he's got a little. He's looking good. Let's hope he continues it in the North London derby.
Yeah. Well, look, I think. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the Tell goal was as a result of good work. I think a doggy was on by then, and Odegaard, right? Now, the fact of the matter is, and I think Odegaard, I mean, I think you're being generous to saying that he's stepped up, but then I'm more of a harder taskmaster because this is grumpy old Spurs. I think that he has shown signs of what he can do, and we need it on a more consistent basis. But I thought he was excellent in the second half, because lo and behold, following on from the revelation that Muani can hold up a ball and link players in, this is a winger who could beat a man and get a cross in, which is something we've not seen down the left-hand side in decades, right? Now, I am, of course, exaggerating, but I thought that, excellent work by the both of them. I think having Destiny behind him, who's left-footed, and having with Odegaard cutting in, that's the way it's got to be, right? And I thought the finish by Tell was really good, actually. It was a lovely turn, and I think that, that was a really good sign. And, old D. Ream in Vienna is convinced that things will only get better with the 2 of them. And I think that it was great to see, because I think at the end of the day, I think Tell came on for Xavi Simons. I believe there was booing at the decision to take off Simons, not so much on Tell. But I think that with the kind of disgraceful social media abuse that Tell got after the Super Cup final, and I think there's confidence issues there, it was great to see. I think the thing with Odegaard and Tell is that if we had a fully functioning squad, when we bought someone to play on the left and we bought a striker, these are 2 players that would play the roles that they did on the weekend, coming in off the bench and making a difference to the outcome of the game, plus also challenging for places. So I think that, I think Odegaard has improved game by game. I thought Leeds away, he showed flashes of what he could do. And I thought that at Leeds away, we had a threat down the left-hand side and the right-hand side of Kudos because Destiny was playing.
So do you think it's Odegaard improving or Frank sort of figuring out how to structure our team? Because Beraval kind of played in that inside left too, right? Before he got the concussion. He was probably going to start there against Chelsea, from my understanding.
For all of 5 minutes, he was
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
that.
But it seems to be something that Frank is tinkering with a little bit to figure out. So I wonder how much of this is Odegaard improving versus being put in a position to thrive.
Well, it's a great question because one of the reasons that I was and still am on the Frank bus is because he has the ability to improve players. We have seen that with what he's done with the Brentford players, of those who have been sold to other clubs in the Premier League for quite a high price. He's improved them, and he's got a track record for doing that. And that's what we wanted to see with Tell and Odegaard and others in the squad. You know, your Bergvars, your Sars, your Archie Grays. Okay. Now, the challenge for him this season is obviously for the first time in his career, he's got to play 2 to 3 games a week, not as he's not at Brentford anymore. But I thought Odegaard had the confidence to try different things on the weekend, which I don't think we've seen that before. So I think that's very promising. But I think that that's again, they're willing to take players on and try different things, which we haven't seen previously. Frankly, with Brennan, and I think Brennan, although he wasn't fantastic, probably he was kind of showed the most aggression I've seen from him in a long time in his play, which is what you want to see from him.
He's been quietly getting better, Johnson, and with his on the ball stuff. Not to the extent that to say he's a £100 million player or anything, but not quite the black hole of talent that we see on the field sometimes that people like to paint him as. He's been putting in some good crosses. I mean, it was against Copenhagen, but he was beating his man, which we haven't seen for a long time from him. But just touching on sort of both of them in some regards, our wingers are living in the shadow of Sung Hyung Min, one of our greatest players of the modern era,
Indeed.
and other players that we've seen on the wing over the years, like Aaron Lennon, like Gareth Bale. We've had some very, very good players.
Yeah.
And these are young lads. Apart from Johnson's 24, so you could make an exception there. But it's also, we're expecting him to maybe play a game that isn't his own, which is a little harsh on him, right? I think he's a very good off the bench player. I think he really reads the speed of a game pretty quickly and can get into it that way. We saw a number of sort of substitute goals from him last season. I think I'd like to see him deployed like that a little bit more as like an off the bench option rather than our starting right winger.
Okay. Yeah. I personally, I would sell Richarlison and Johnson at the drop of a hat and see if we can get as much money for them as possible. Because as I've said before, when opposition teams fans see Johnson and Richarlison coming off the bench together, they're hardly shitting themselves, are they? Now, speaking of our World Cup striker, because that's also controlled out about him, we then, having scored that, to the delight and exultation of Spurs fans in the stadium and around the world, we followed that up by going 2-up. Now, would it have gone in if Richarlison had glanced that ball in the direction of the goal, Ian?
I'm not sure. You can't know. Let's be charitable and say that Richie.
Well, your hesitation is saying a lot here, Ian.
Well, I just haven't seen a good angle of it to say definitely it would have gone in. Odegaard definitely struck it well, but you don't know where. That goalkeeper was having a good game for United, so maybe the touch was just enough to put it outside of his reach. So, is that an Odegaard assist? Was that an Odegaard assist?
It probably well has to be. It's an assist and a half in my book.
I mean, a cross, yeah.
I mean, that was. I mean, and there's that's why I've put the picture of him doing a shot rather than Richarlison's glance, right? But I think, at the end of the day, I thought it was a great shot. It's something that we don't see that not often enough, and it's great to see that he tried it. As I said, Tell with his turn and score. Odegaard with the shot, which I think would have gone in anyway. So that was great to see. And then Richarlison rushes off to the corner. He rips off his shirt, and it did look like he was in tears.
Yeah, I mean, he's missed a lot of chances recently. And I don't really want to comment on
And
stuff he
he
said in the
robbed
past
Dane
about.
Scarlett of a penalty during the week, didn't he, Ian?
Well, I mean, that's a whole other issue. I think that it should be like basketball rules. If you go down, the player who gets tackled or fouled should be the one to take the kick, whether it's a free kick, whether it's a penalty. I think it would just be more fun. But in which case, Scarlett would have taken the penalty against Copenhagen and probably not hit the bar. But I mean, if I looked like Richie and I had a six pack, I'd probably walk around shirtless all the time. So more power to him.
Okay, so he gets a yellow card. He gets a yellow card, and we're going to bring out a fun fact in a minute about that yellow card in 1 second. So, we basically we didn't manage the game well enough after that. Bentancur did a very sloppy pass out to Tell, which didn't get to him. We lost possession. The corner is taken. Up goes their goalkeeper, and in goes the goal. And as you can see there, our hero Vicario, who's been man of the match for 3 games, where was he on that corner, Ian?
Well, there's kind of 3 breakdowns here, right? You've got Bentancur losing possession, and actually, if you look, because I went peek behind the curtain here, folks. David sent out talking points before the recording, and one of them said a slack pass from Bentancur, and I thought, what the hell is he talking about? So I had to go dig out a dodgy stream and scroll forward to find this Bentancur pass, and I found another one, like 90 seconds before. He makes a pass out to the wing to Odegaard. It's sloppy. There's a ball turnover for United. They attack. They move up the field, and then there's that second sloppy ball out from Bentancur. So he actually effed up twice in the preceding minutes to keep ceding possession back to United when all we had to do was keep the ball. So you had that, which is a shame because I thought Bentancur was having an okay game off the bench. Like I think that he maybe contributed a little bit more to our build up and the 2 goals that got scored. I think he did help until his bad luck his luck ran out. Then you've got whoever lost Delict on the corner. And I again, I'm too stupid to understand sort of zonal marking and stuff, but my understanding is we do marking from corners based upon zones. So I think Delict kind of ran past 2 players. And then, we're going to get into Vicario. I wasn't too sure. I mean, he was behind the goal, which is kind of a shame. But as Stu pointed out, there was some jostling for position. And again, maybe he got out-muscled. I'm not sure. I mean, just
I think Stu's being very, very generous here. Okay, because at the point of the opposite, Mighty F was Vic stationed behind his line. And also from King Hoddle, who is veritably Shakespearean here when he says it was a metaphorical dagger to the heart, Dave. That is Shakespeare.
I think Vicario just got lost. Bless him. It's not.
He got lost.
It's quite a big. Yeah, it's a big penalty box.
He got lost doing his job, is what you're telling me.
He got turned around.
Now, we're on grumpy old Spurs. Some people have a no-blame policy, but I'm blaming Vicario for that goal. I don't know what he was doing. Yeah, he may have been jostled, but everyone's been jostling him for the best part of 2 years now. He should have done a lot better. And whoever was marking Delit obviously wasn't marking Delit. And it was very it's one of those ones where it feels like a loss when we let in that last-minute equalizer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to blame Vicario too much. I'm going to blame whoever let Man United's tallest centre back get loose in the box. To be honest, I think that's criminal. He did feel like a loss, but if you told me at 1-0 down, you'll get a draw at the end of this match, I probably would have bitten your hand off based upon how our home form has been, and maybe that's just how broken down I am as a Spurs fan. I'm just a cynical man who will take any point he can get now. But yeah, it did feel like it. It felt like we screwed up. It felt like we threw away an opportunity to improve that home form, go into the international break with some momentum, score, 6 goals in a week. When was the last time we did that?
Oh, don't know. But yeah, I mean, we've played 3 games at home. We've played three games at home this week. So we've had the Chelsea debacle. We had the Copenhagen stroll in the park, and then we've kind of snatched a draw from the jaws of victory. So really, let's just bring up the table here for a moment as we go into yet another international break. Apologies to everyone at home and to Ian. I've gone back to the braille-sized graphics. We are, if you can't make it out, 5th in the table on 18 points. They say that we're as equally same number of points away from the relegation zone as we are to the top, which of course you can't see that because I can't see Arsenal's points. Other than that, good job by me. So generally speaking, so that's an example of why we never win any awards, ladies and gentlemen. So, Ian, how are you feeling about us in the league thus far?
I think that we got a little bit lucky. I don't know if I think that we've been good for 5th and 18 points. I think our performances have been less than that. Vicario has dug us out a few times. He's, made some good saves. But this is probably a good thing that we've not been playing well. We've got points on the board. I mean, what are we, halfway to our points total from last season already? That's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the needle moving in the right direction.
So the benchmark is we're not as shit as last season. Is that this season's benchmark?
Well, let the season play out,
Mm.
So we're still plenty of.
I think it was around this time. I still think it was around this time last year. We were up there in the league.
Yeah, we were.
We were in the before it went really really tits up. I think here it's a bunch table because it's a league actually devoid of real quality. I agree. It is a bit it feels a bit Keystone Cops this season. I mean, you look at Newcastle's away form is almost as bad as our home form. I think that Sunderland are the surprise, and I was delighted that they outmuscled the Gooners on the weekend. And it may well be that City remain our only hope of the Gooners, denying the Gooners their first title in 24 years.
Again, I think Jack Pitt-Brooke of The Athletic made a comment how Man City have become this thing for other fans to project onto in the hopes that they'll win the league instead of their rivals, Man United and Liverpool, us and Arsenal, just praying that Man City, who we really shouldn't be championing as a football club, go off and do us a favor. But if Arsenal do go on and do something this year, I just hope that we don't get beat by them, so we can say, we did our part to some extent. You might have won the league. You didn't get one over us. That would be nice, especially after our current form, recent form against them. But it's a real low bar for us to step over. But I'd like us to do that this year if they're going to win the league.
That's the spirit from Darren. Arsenal drawing keeps us in the title race. Absolutely. Book your flights for May next year. We're going back down the Tottenham High Road. There's another trophy parade. This time, our first title since 1961. Okay, so we're going to move on now. Before I do so, and in time-honored tradition, for those watching, if you could press the like button, if you could subscribe to us and do all those other things that I meant to say as a host, then I'll be doing my job and Gibbo will be happy with me. And Connor, by the way, he is in India on a business trip at the moment. And Gibbo is Uber Dad tonight, a role that we all play. So that's kind of the panel. Now, I want to move on. And have you got your medical certificate there ready, Ian?
I have. And you should just tell people that I'm Levynomics and see if they know the difference,
You're Levynomics?
Yeah, just lie, just to see if you can get.
I can't do that. I can't do that. There's only one Levynomics. I'm sorry. Now that.
But yeah, I'll get my stethoscope out.
That's a joke that we used to do about Gibbo, but we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Come on, you're better than that. So get your medical certificate and your and because as we go into the international break, which as Martin says that we need to feed up with the international breaks. So we're going to scoffing food over the international breaks. Let's look at this injury list and let's put the question of our medical team. They don't know what they're doing. They're rubbish. But I know everything about medicine in that voice. So I want to go through the list here, right? And what can we blame on the medical staff here? Kudos. You got a knock. By the way, I can't remember which website and graphic I got this from, but very helpfully over there is the Red Cross sign and first aid sign, just in case anyone doesn't think we're talking about injuries. Kudos. Well, how did he get that injury? Do you know, Ian?
No.
I don't. If it's a
Great,
training
great
injury,
podcasting.
if it's a training injury, hang on a minute. We're now going
Let's look
into
it up.
we're now going into the witch doctory from Kerry. We're cursed. Okay, right. That might be. We're going to put that down to the medical staff. Bergval getting hit by a ball from 3 yards is not the medical or the staff injury. Archie Gray, I thought he got that knock in training. So I think,
I believe so too. Yeah.
Okay, and then we've got someone, the expert here, that's in game from Kudos, so we can't blame the medical staff there. Ben Davis, I think he got a hammy whilst he's away with the Welsh.
I mean, he's also old. You got to give him some, give him some time.
He's Welsh and he's old, and therefore he gets a hamstring injury. Solanke. Now, I am blaming Solanke's woes on the medical staff. There's all this business of he's had an ankle injury. He's had an ankle injury for about 3 months, and they decide to give him surgery. That annoys me when it talks about they're injured, and 3 years later they get surgery. If you listen to the Spurs show and the interviews of old players over the years, historically the treatment of injuries, Danny Rose, who isn't that old a player, Darren Anderson, who is, blames the medical staff for the misdiagnosis. So Solanke, I'm blaming the medical staff for that one. Yves Bissouma, who obviously this week has had 800 grand nicked from his account, he was injured, not fit, and he went away and then he got injured. I think, was it an ACL as well?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it was that bad.
Okay, well, either way, that's on him.
Eye injury or something, I think.
An eye injury?
A thigh injury. A thigh.
I thought you said he's had an eye injury. He's got an eye injury. The Spurs optician didn't diagnose it. I blame Levy.
Yeah, next. He's got a lazy eye. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Madison. Well, we saw all that in Hong Kong.
But you could make a case with Madison that he had come back from a knee injury. Did we manage him correctly in his minutes?
I see.
That's maybe you could give half a point for that one. Maybe if you wanted to be really. So
Solanke was never injured for Bournemouth, was he? Quite right. I don't know what Dean Austin was. Dean Austin. Bissouma was the ankle. And someone's still blaming Australians. They just can't help it on this show, but to have a go at Australians. I still blame Ange for the current industry. His legacy is continuing to injure our players by osmosis.
I mean, in fairness, Madison got that knee injury under Ange. You've got Dragishin got his ACL under Ange. Solanke's
get on to Dragishin in a minute. We're in a medical meeting here. Let's go through the agenda.
I forgot we were in a medical board.
We're in the medical board meeting. Now, Kota Takai, he's got, now you said this in the green room before we went on air. What's he got again?
Plantar fasciitis.
Yeah, we talked about this the other week. I just forgot. And John, who's not working tonight, he knows he gave us a great definition of plantar fasciitis or whatever it's called. So basically, it's a bit of a running injury. John would know because he's a runner. And but we bought him with this condition.
Yeah, I heard that too, which is just incredible. But maybe it's not that big a deal because he's our fourth choice who probably wasn't going to get any minutes anyway. I don't know. I can't wrap my head around signing an injured player.
No. So that's that's on the medical staff or whatever. Anyway, Kulusevski, well,
he got run through by Gahey. Yeah.
Yes.
Awful tackle.
Yep. So that's that. You can't blame that on the medical staff. Then we've got Dragusin. Now, basically, Dragusin is he did his injury, he fell over, he got up again, went on for a couple more minutes, and then went off. That's, in my opinion, as a qualified doctor in 3 different countries, poor medical treatment. Ian, what's your opinion?
I just think that you're soft and he's hard. He's tough. He thought it was just tis but a scrape. Didn't think much of it. I don't know. But if the player doesn't flag to the staff, hey, I need somebody to look at this. Mm-hmm. I mean, are the staff supposed to
he fell over. I mean, he actually fell over on the pitch.
Yeah, I remember
it's not a question of flagging. Well, he was flagging.
But if he gets back up and gives a thumbs up, or I can't remember what he did, but if he carries on, and the referee's blown or whatever, I think that there's a little bit of the player knowing their own body is an issue there.
Right.
Yeah, they are grown ups after all.
I'm not. I'm blaming the medical staff on that one.
Okay.
Hang on, I've got the wrong one there. Sorry. Good evening to Craig, who has outed himself as seeing a podcast of Tim Sherwood. So just to mention the name Dim Deadwood brings me out in hives. He says the injuries are due to a lack of training. Tim Sherwood, the man who turned up late for Benfica at home. That's the game that he was coaching the first team. But there we go. Good evening to Craig. I hope the moving bollards in Watford's centre are well, and so are you. So if we go, and then finally, Moani, he, I don't think you can blame the staff for his altercation with Harry Maguire. I'm hoping that we can get the old.
Because if he needs surgery in 6 weeks, and he should have had surgery now, you'll get another point for your blame table.
But the medical board is meeting now, and the facts presented before us on the medical board at Grumpy Old Spurs is that we're here now. So if we run through this list, Dragusin, Takai, Madison, Solanke, that is about a 50% hit rate for medical negligence. Only joking if anyone from the club's legal department's watching. So I'm going to 50% should have done better. What do you reckon?
I think it's more like 25. I'm going to be slightly.
You are being very generous and charitable in all aspects tonight, Ian. You are on Grumpy Old Spurs, where we are meant to be grumpy.
Well, in which case, it's every single one of them, and all the other players are also injured. We just don't know yet. They're lying to us.
And blame Levy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's his fault.
Yeah, it's all his fault.
That's why he's not allowed back at the training ground.
That's right. And hang on a minute. We've got someone in. We got Good morning, Milton from the Gong. Hope you're well. Were you at Oasis on the weekend? I was. I've just about recovered, frankly. And I'm not talking drinking. I'm talking about a middle-aged man in the mosh pit. It's my last ever middle-aged man in the mosh pit appearance, frankly. But it was a great night. Anyway, before we finish off here, now, you did allude to the fact that I sent you some notes before the show, which kind of slightly insinuated that I'm doing a professional job here. I've completely forgotten, Ian, the usual traditional questions that we ask all new people. So we'll do it now. This is very bad and out of sequence, and I apologise to everyone watching at home and to you, Ian. Questions that we normally ask new people on the show is, what was the first Tottenham game that you went to? And then, secondly, what was the first time Tottenham made you grumpy?
I wasn't going to dob you in, I was just going to let it ride and then mention it to you after this so I could come back on to answer these questions. But so my first time at Spurs, so I grew up in Oxford, not London. So it was not necessarily in my backyard to get out there, and my dad wasn't super into going to games at that time. So my first game, despite being born in 86, was in 2008. It was a UEFA Cup game on the 18th of December. Against Spartak Moscow. Moscow. Gilberto got hooked at halftime because he had a dreadful performance in the first half. He basically gave up the first goal. The team, by the way, if anybody's sort of looking at dreadful Spurs teams, I was looking at it here. You've got Chris Gunter at right back, Didier Zakora at centre back, Michael Dawson, Gilberto, Bentley, Huddleston, O'Hara, Bale, Modric.
Jamie O'Hara, bloody hell.
And Fraser Campbell. And now he did make a number of changes. This was like Redknapp's third game, I think.
Right.
Like his third or fifth game. It was right. It was just after he came in. So he was making some changes. I think we had Newcastle on the weekend after this. I was reading before the pod. So yeah, it was kind of big turnover. Not exactly the most glorious first game at the Lane, but I did see Modric's first goal for Spurs, which was nice. Sweeps it in from an Aaron Lennon cross. Got to see a Gareth Bale assist for a Tom Huddleston header. Not bad. Sat on the shelf, I thought that was
That's
a good time. Yeah. And my brother did good. He got the tickets and he must have done his research. So that was my first time at Spurs.
So that's your first game. So you got to see the majesty of Luka Modric. You've got to see I love Luka Modric. You start to see the Gareth Bale, and it's kind of still the early stages of the career, really.
I think he was wearing
And
3, so that shows you how
right,
early
he's
it
playing
was.
left back, and you
Yeah.
got to see the legend, the media personality who represents the whole fan base, Jamie O'Hara as well. So you're a very lucky person. And then the next question is, what's the first time that Tottenham ever made you grumpy?
So I'm going to keep us in 2008
Oh,
because
go on.
a narrative. It would be the Berbatov transfer. You know, I'm of the opinion. I was thinking about this question before we came on. I'm like, I don't think you can be grumpy as a child, right? So grumpy children. I don't think it's possible. I think it's really difficult.
No, I promise you, it
is. So, especially about football, right? So anyway, so Spurs in the early 2000s were on somewhat of an upward trajectory from a mid-90s dross. There was some coming out of it. There were some good players we were signing. It wasn't perfect, right? Anybody who remembers Spurs before the 90s will say, well, it was still shit, but you know, as a young boy, it was getting better. Lasagna Gate came and went. Can't really blame us, for that. That was some weird norovirus stuff that went on. But you get to 2008, and season before, we'd sold Jermaine Defoe. We brought in Darren Bent, I want to say. Pavlyuchenko, I forget the order of events. But that summer, we sold Robbie Keane after winning the League Cup. He was our co-captain. He went to his boyhood club, Liverpool. And we spent the whole effing summer trying not to sell our best player, Berbatov, to Man United. We spent the whole window. We kept putting it off. I think 30th of August, we ended up selling him. Man City put in a late bid. They had just been taken over by, I don't think it was their current owners. It was whoever owned them before their current owners. It was when they signed Robinho. Like they moved on from Berbatov and they moved on to Robinho. It was like that transfer window. But we spent the whole time, and we bought in Bentley, we bought in Modric. These were good signings in principle. But Bentley didn't work out, but in principle, he was a decent player and a Spurs fan as well, which is nice. But we did all that. We lose Berbatov, and who do we get in? Who is our replacement for Dimitar Berbatov? Fraser Campbell.
So that's the first time you got annoyed, grumpy.
I think that's what really made me really annoyed. Yeah, and then we obviously went on 3 points from 8 games. Happened.
Two. Harry always reminds you it's 2 points.
No, it's 2 points. 2 points. I forgot it was a triangle, right? What's the difference between Spurs and a triangle?
6 points.
But yeah, that pissed me off.
That makes you grumpy. All right, well, that's fair enough. That makes you grumpy. That's that. I think that whole transfer. When was that? Yes, that was the penultimate of the final straws I had for Levy or ENIC. I wasn't fully Levy out or ENIC out then, but I was very, very annoyed that. So the obviously 2 points from 8 games were in that absolute mess, and they sacked Ramos. And Ramos is seen as a bit of a joke figure, but he did win us a trophy, and he did manage to, stick 5 past Arsenal in the semi-final and beat a very good Chelsea team in the final. And then effectively he sees 80 goals over the previous 2 seasons walk out the door, and he's left with Super Pav being the Russian Eric Lamela. And by that, I mean, everyone goes, oh, Pav, oh, he's a character. Oh, I like Pav. He wasn't a very good player. That's Lamela. And Darren Bent, who was never comfortable in the Spurs shirt. And
no, he didn't really
Fraser Campbell, who I think apparently still playing now. Apparently, Ramos is the Spanish Ange. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I can see it. He came in, won a trophy. I can see it.
Well, that's a bit. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, so King Hoddle and HG are having a row about Ange at the moment in the chats, and I'll leave them to that. Not a row, good, honest debate. That's good. Now, before we finish off and get to reasons to be cheerful, Iain, why don't you tell us about your podcast, Poddenham Podspur? Over to you.
Yeah, Poddenham Podspur. The idea behind it is I review and talk about and interview people behind the scenes in Spurs podcasts. So I've had David on recently. We had a nice chat about his podcasting career. I recently interviewed Mike Lee of the Spurs Show, Flav from the Fighting Cock, Who else have I spoken to? There's a couple other folks too in there who I'm misremembering. I do reviews of podcasts. I kind of summarize, like a sentiment analysis almost of, I listen to dozens of podcasts. I try to get a lock on what people are saying. I make some commentary on it. I try to weave it into an overall somewhat cherry-picked and biased narrative, but I try to paint a picture for people to listen to. And all of this started because on Blue Sky, like 7 months ago, I made a joke that wouldn't it be funny if we had a Spurs podcast that told you which podcast, what was happening, so you don't have to listen to the Spurs podcasts. And I suddenly got a bunch of people saying, hey, that's a good idea, including Jack from Rule the Roost, who's a podcaster himself. And I thought, if the podcasters are saying that they would listen to this, maybe I'll be okay. And it's been good. 7 months. I couldn't have picked a more crazy time to start a Spurs podcast. We've had a Europa League win. We've had manager firings. We've had Levy departing. There's been a lot of stuff to talk about. Paratici coming back. I did a special on him recently and how I looked at how the Spurs show, the Extra Inch, the Fighting Cock, and a few other pods talked about Paratici when he was hired, when he resigned, and when he was rehired, to see how Spurs fans have kind of changed their tune on him. So that's the approach I take. It's somewhat analytical. It's kind of high level at times. And yeah, I also try to platform and talk about the good things that people are making, because as I'm sure you're itching to talk about, there are over 115 Spurs podcast and content, YouTube content creators out there that I found so far. And I also have
115, ladies and gentlemen, 115. So if we roughly took that as an hour per show, of which some shows go way over the hour, you're a minimum of 115 hours a week. Some of them are monthly.
It's more. It's like 9 days of podcasts from what my calculation was. So per week. Because you got to remember, some of the YouTube shows go on for 2-3 hours.
Some YouTube shows go on for 2-3 days. Some of them with 15 people on there and just talking about the same thing. I mean, the history of this channel, John organised and drove a couple of deadline day specials where we did 7 whole hours. We had rotating guests and hosts to talk about deadline day, where, surprise, surprise, we didn't do any business whatsoever. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. And I've put a link to the podcast, just the Spotify link.
Thank you.
That is in the description of this show, if that is the right word for saying it. And so you can find it on Apple, Spotify, and
it's everywhere. It's everywhere. YouTube or on Amazon Music. Yeah, Blue Sky. I'm always on Blue Sky chatting some nonsense.
So there you go. And you can talk maybe because apparently it's meta for you to be talking about other Tottenham YouTube and podcasts, or I'd call it the Russian doll of Tottenham podcasting, because I'm not that clever to use the term meta. And maybe you'll talk about your experience of doing your first ever live YouTube with live comments in your pod, or maybe not, because you want to get listeners, and I don't blame you. So we haven't got long to go. As is the tradition, we like to finish off with, in the style of Iain during the Blockheads, reasons to be cheerful. And if anyone in the comments has got reasons to be cheerful about Tottenham, put them in. Last week, after the Chelsea debacle, we changed it to reasons to be fearful. So as we head into the international break, we've done the medical assessment. We've handed out blame for that. We've reviewed the United game. We're fifth in the table. Any reasons to be cheerful, Iain?
Yeah, I think there's two. We have our first choice centre-backs in the team, and at the moment fit, going into a North London derby.
Now you've done it.
Yeah, I know. Knock on wood. And hopefully Kudus is back soon. Again, for the North London derby. He hasn't travelled with Ghana, as far as I know, so fingers crossed he gets some rest and comes back fit.
Okay. So you are, we'll get to this next week with whoever's on next week. You're feeling positive about the North London derby.
I would say more than anything else, I don't know what else to be positive about.
Right. Okay.
If I'm not positive, then I'll start crying on your YouTube live stream, and I don't want to do that.
Crying's allowed. You're in a safe space. If you want to cry, go for it. King Hoddle, who's normally so negative, King Hoddle. The second half versus United was encouraging. I agree.
Yeah, true.
So my reason to be cheerful, and this is so we've got an Iain, and we're doing Iain during the blockheads. Reason to be cheerful. How Iain meta. I think that Odegaard Destiny on the left hand side is the way to go. I think the fact that we didn't play that bloody double pivot of Paulinho and Bentancur has made me cheerful. And so I think that if we get everyone back from the international break with no injuries, and that we have Destiny on the left and Odegaard on the left against the Gooners away, that sets us up a lot better. If Kudos is back fit, I would either have Porro or Spence on the right back. But those are the reasons to be cheerful. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the proceedings tonight, this morning on the show. Iain, thank you very much for coming on. Hope you've enjoyed it.
I have. Thanks for having me.
And thank you to everybody who has put comments in. Thank you for the lively debate in the chat. It's always good to have a lively debate in the chat. I'm a big fan of that, even though we can't put all the comments on. So thanks everyone for your comments, questions, and for watching us. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends about this show. Please tell your enemies about this show. Tell anyone. We'd love to get more views, and we'd love to get more subscribers. Thank you, Darren. You were great as well, Darren, by the way. And just to finish off on a kind of petty, non-footballing note, this is Cameron. He's in Melbourne. That's the 5th city of Australia, by the way. Sydney's the 1st city. And he's making a comment about Oasis and the fact that someone on Instagram in their section said no one was making any noise. There was no atmosphere. Just want to point out to everyone, as people were leaving the stadium in Melbourne from an Oasis gig, they were singing Blur songs. That's Melbourne for you. And on that note, all that's left for me to say in a time-honoured tradition is, come on, you Spurs.